Hey everybody, this is Jason Jeffries here, the Alliance Project. I'm gonna go ahead and let me set up, share this video with you today. It's there's gonna be a lot in it, and I'll go ahead and cite some of the sources. But yeah, so I've been really busy at work, and I missed you guys. So here I'm back. Got a good show for you. So. You have to bear with me while I figure out a way to share the images I want to share with you. So I guess I'm gonna play through, and at times I'll probably be pausing this video and trying to bookmark my thoughts so I can speak while you see an image. And yeah, I want to try to keep pumping out as many shows as possible, so I don't want to make the editing process too long. So I'm going to kind of step it up a little bit on this one. Tell me how you guys like it. Give me some feedback. And that's actually what I've been trying to reach out to some people to do, is see if they want to help maybe edit footage and look up photos and reference pictures and things like that for me for my discussions and things like that. So anybody wants to help be a part of the project, let me know. So here we go. So this one is going to be based on sacred geometry, ancient knowledge, ancient wisdom, Thoth, Elanian, so has that Annunaki tie, and just some ancient wisdom here. We're going to apply some practical and kind of give people a better understanding of some of the words and terminology that we use, and kind of pick up parts for people's research. And I've always noticed that David Icke kind of awakens people, but he also has a lot of theories and evidences that he borrows from known evidences and truths and facts and twists them ever so slightly to weave together a nice big story. So I'm going to start by saying everything in the universe is geometric, okay? From atoms to dogs to trees to the universe, galaxies itself. So everything in the known universe can be measured on a geometric scale. So basically, yeah, that's as straightforward as I can put it. With that being said, that means creation itself can be represented in a geometric form. So what we're going to be looking at today is the pattern of creation. Literally everything in the known universe comes out of this pattern. And I'm not making this up. So right here, I'm hoping that this single image will change everything for you in your perception. When I told you about the ancient Egyptians and Mayans and these ancient cultures, even the ancient Chinese and things like that, had a deeper understanding of how the known universe worked. This is kind of what I was talking about. This is the flower of life, and this is the creation pattern of all known things in the universe, even non-tangible things like your emotions, including thoughts, and music and its entire spectrum, and everything. So literally everything. So there's 13 known information systems that we can pull out of this symbol alone. And today I'm going to show you them, and we're going to walk them together. So basically I'm going to show you how physical reality can manifest itself. And that's only one of the 13 possibilities and information systems we can pull out of this. So I think it's important to note at first, it might not make sense. So I ask you to keep an open mind and not to shut it out completely, and just to listen and take it in and let it make sense. I'd also just like to add that by observing, you're only going to take in like a minuscule amount of information from sacred geometry. If you really want to get a really good grasp of it, you have to actually start drawing it yourself, and then you'll start to see patterns and things a lot more emerge, and you'll get a higher understanding of it. So the flower of life was known all around the ancient world. It was found in Turkey, China, Istanbul, Egypt, Greece, Germany, India, and Iceland. It's literally everywhere. It's also been recorded to have been found in England, Tibet, Sweden, Lapland, the Yucatan, and I believe 13 or 14 other places that we know of. So the symbol's everywhere. And not only that, everywhere it has the same name, the flower of life. So to imagine the flower of life and to wrap your mind around it, you have to realize how it's formed. So to do that, I'll have to show you a representation. So give me a moment here and I'll pull up a chalkboard. So imagine consciousness floating in a void, spirit, that's it. So you gotta just take this one and consider it all alone and avoid nothingness, okay? So there's nothingness in spirit. Basically, consider this consciousness and nothingness in the vastness of space. Essentially nothing all around this, all around spirit for infinite, to get an understanding of what we're talking about here. Just void consciousness. That's it. So nothingness, every direction, infinite, and spirit. So spirit decides to do something. It decides to expand its consciousness around itself. And this is where the circle is created, okay? Just imagine it's creating a sphere around itself as large as it can with its consciousness. So let me erase that one. And let's get back into it. So spirit created a sphere around itself. So now it has an awareness of itself, like what's around it. So that is the first circle in the flower of life. This first circle right here. So it has an awareness of itself now. So what it does is repeats itself. It does what it did the first time. It creates a sphere around itself in 360 degrees. And creates this symbol, okay? Now, spirit moved in relationship to itself, right? Created another sphere. At the radius of the diameter, it literally doubles it, and it creates what we know, what we call a Vesica Pisces. So within this is an incredible amount of information about, width, depth, length, angles, all kinds of things. If you put another circle in here, touched it to there, and then put a cross, like a line from that to that, that to that, and then just read the angles in there, you would learn a lot, an amazing amount. It's a lot to go into, but since I'm trying to overview this, we'll go ahead and kind of give you the basics and let you look into that stuff more on your own. It also contains the square roots of 2, 3, and 5, certain angles, which might I add are numbers that all go on forever. But even more fascinating, even more interestingly to me, and fascinating to me is there comes geometric information about light, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But basically, you could take the CBS symbol and make it right out of there, the all-seeing eye, the eye of Horus. It's the idea of what's going on here. That is consciousness, the eye of Horus, the right eye of Horus, and however you want to look at it, Osiris. It's the same thing. So consciousness is starting to manifest the physical reality. Bear with me. Since spirit did this, it realizes that it has no other choice but to do it again. So what it does is does it again, repeats itself. And since spirit is flawless, it does it flawlessly. So it would do it here or here. Okay, so for this demonstration, we're going to. All right, now we got a trinity right there, right? Even more information comes from this. So it gets a lot, it's a lot to take in at first. So give me just a moment, bear with me, and I'll keep on explaining. So it actually moves one radius, exactly one radius away from the circle that it was just created by. So point, point, point. And every time spirit does this, it repeats itself. Okay. Now this has the religious annotations to this, and we'll get into them in a moment. So as it repeats itself over and over. Let me make sure I get these all lined up. Bear with me, guys. Trying to make it perfect for you. But there's a religious meaning about this, right? Everything being created in 6 days, right? That kind of aspect. But what we got to get at is the ability to decipher this information from the parables. Okay, so every time it repeats itself, more and more information comes out of the picture, and more just knowledge is to be had each time. So that's what we're getting at here. We're trying to show how complex and how much information exactly is in one of these sacred geometric patterns. And I believe when you see how it all comes together, you'll be truly astonished. Now, I know that's not perfect, but it's pretty damn close for me doing a demonstration right in front of you. So what we're going to do here is go ahead and go over it. All right. Now, God, in the Bible, you can look it up and said, creation happened in 6 days and he rested on the seventh. So created, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6th day it rested, right? That's when creation was completed. This right here, there's a lot of information inside it, and we'll get to that in just a second. Now, this isn't perfect, like I said, but if you were to put it perfect, all these little points right here would have a common point. I'll just go ahead and show you what I can real quick. See if I can find one. So this is what we call a Genesis pattern and a seed of life, right? This is the first geometric piece of information, first completed image, other than the Vesica Pisces, but that's not really completed. But this is called the seed of life. Hope you guys can see that good here on your screen. Get you some gifts to make it cool. There it is. So there's a person appearing in it too. But the idea of this is sacred information inside of it, and they're kind of trying to show you that with the measurements and things. That's where you get the golden mean, the golden ratio, the phi ratio, things like that. And we'll be going into this more in a moment. I'm trying to stay on task. So when you consider it being called the Genesis pattern, you remember, look into the Bible, and it said that on the first day he created, give me one moment, I'll look that verse up for you. It says, the earth was out form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and God moved upon the bodies of water, or upon the water. So we know that we were talking about the void, the nothingness, right? And then it moved on the first day. Consciousness created this, right? You know, this, every one of these movements is considered a day, and that is why it's called the Genesis pattern, 6 days. So this is where it gets interesting. So not only did it basically, what I'm trying to get here is a nice pattern for you. I don't know where to find it, but something like this. So bear with me, sorry about that pause there. But basically we're trying to find something that gives you a little bit more of an understanding here. But on the first day, it didn't only create basically knowledge of mathematical angles and patterns. It also gave you information on light itself, as I was saying earlier. The point I'm getting at here is, just as I told you in my other videos, where when the Bible talks in steps, you know, when they're talking about seed going to, you know, the grass is turning into the wheats and the cereals, and then they turning into fruit-bearing trees and shrubs. And they showed you basically, just like plant experts can, the evolution of plants from the start of the seed. It shows you the seed until it is actually a plant that is creating its own seeds within itself inside the fruit. They told you in very specific order, and it was for a reason. So it first said, God moved upon the waters and said, let there be light. So when he moved from here to here, God, consciousness, unity, the oneness and consciousness of the whole universe, together, moved in relationship to itself here. It gave knowledge of mathematical principles and relationships, and knowledge of light, as I said. Now, if you were to measure the angles inside of this and the information obtained inside this picture that I just showed you, it actually shows the principles of, like I said, square roots of 2, 3, and 5, infinite numbers, light, angles, relationships, just about every angle you need is inside of this shape. And when you ask about the waters, you just say, well, you got to remember the Bible's been changed and edited for so many years that it's, you know, kind of like in parables. So we had nothingness, movement, then light. Okay, so that's the first. All right, hope this is starting to explain itself to you. Okay, the really big part of that is trying to understand. I mean, from an Egyptian standpoint, they would say how our Bible says creation started doesn't make sense, especially from a physics standpoint. You have God, but you have a void, nothingness. So without a void, without nothingness, without creating something, expanding something to have yourself be in relationship to, okay, it has to happen first. If there's just consciousness and nothing around it, then there's nothing for consciousness to realize it's moving relative to, or nothing to move relative to. It would be kind of floating, not really falling or sinking or anything. It just doesn't make sense. Okay. So before it has movement, it would first have to create something to move relative to, is the point I'm making. I mean, imagine nothingness in infinite directions. You're not really falling, you're not really floating. You couldn't move because you have nothing to move in relationship to. Kinetic energy and anything like that is literally impossible. You can't even rotate. So the movement is impossible in a void. That's because movement can't become real unless there's one other object in the space around you. So on the second day, a perfect trinity is formed. I showed you that. Go into that a little bit, which is interesting when you consider, the religious texts and the Holy Trinity and things like that. So an Egyptian's take on our modern Bible would say before God created light and movement, he actually had to create something to move relative to. So there you go. Hope this is starting to make sense more. There's the Holy Trinity. There's the protection symbol. There's the, I know you've seen this 100 places. So on the fourth day, when you get to that far, a lot of Bibles and religious texts say exactly half of creation was done. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Exactly half of the symbol of the flower of life, right? The seed of life. Now, very interesting. Don't believe in coincidence. And on the sixth day, the geometric gift, miracle happens. That's crazy stuff. But so don't look up the seed of life and go too far into it, because you'll see some gross stuff. But wow, that was not expected. But shoo, threw me off there. Let's get to this. 6 days. This perfect creation, the Genesis pattern is created, right? The seed of life. That's what a lot of Bibles meant when they said in the beginning there was 6. Even our modern Bible says the world was created in 6 days. Another important shape that comes out of this is called the tree of life. We'll go into that right now. Many of you might recognize this as the Hebrew or Jewish Kabbalah, but it didn't originate there. The tree of life doesn't belong to any culture, not even the Egyptians, which carved the tree of life at Karnak Temple on 3 pillars about 5,000 years ago in Luxor. So they're outside of any creed or religion. These are patterns that intimately are entwined with nature and creation. It's a lot to take in. Upon rotating and giving it like a vortex, a 3-dimensional rotation of the symbol that I was sharing with you, you get this. It's called the egg of light. Now, if this starts to look interesting, it should. Egg of life, right? Get you some balls here. There you go. Okay, so what that's showing you, what it's showing you is very, very interesting. If you were to connect their centers, you would see a cube, perfect cube. And you may say, who cares? Well, me and the ancient Egyptians did. They were concerned about creation, life, the universe, and everything. And this is what they call the egg of life. So you may not believe me yet, but this structure is the morphinogenic structure that created your body. That exact shape. So what we'll do here, build a lesson. Trying to give you a nice representation. Here's pretty good. There you go. Yes, that is the basis, right? That's the beginning. So all around the world, this pattern was drawn the same. It can obviously go on forever, but they always stopped at 19 circles. Why did they do that? That's because they didn't want you to learn what I'm about to show you. That should be taken seriously, and you should really consider that too, because back then this knowledge was considered so sacred that they couldn't allow it to become common knowledge. It was appropriate at the time. However, now we either use that information or fall forever into the darkness, right? Most cells, if not all cells, have what we call a zona pellucida. Get the point? So what you do is you remove the zona pellucida, correct? Right? You remove the zona pellucida of the flower of life. You remove the membrane around it, right? And then you complete the circles that are left unfinished. And you get this. Okay? It's also known as Metatron's cube. A lot more information comes out. And we'll get into that right now. So these 13 circles are the most sacred pattern and piece of information in the known universe, basically, to all people. Because it's called the fruit of life, because from in the seed, like this is the fruit. This is basically, how do I say it? It's called the fruit because it's the result, the fruit of what the constructs, because of the fabric of the details, have created. Because it's the fruit. Does that make sense? It comes from seed to fruit. It's called the fruit because it's basically the result of the designed fabric of our reality is created. It is the fruit of the construct, what happens, basically. I don't know how else to say it, and I hope that livens it up for you. I hope you understand what I'm trying to get at here. So what happens is you get this fruit of life. Basically, you can see that there's female and male energy, as I was telling you about before. It flows through everything. Female energy is free and indirect. And male energy is direct and to the source and straight to it. So if you were to take this is the female energy, the male energy of this, and you would connect all the dots to the center of every one of them, you would get what's known universally to everybody is Metatron's cube. So this is one of the most sacred and precious pieces of information in the world, basically, when it comes to this. It's universal, okay? It literally is universal when it comes to that sense. It is on every aspect, It is one of the most important informational systems that we have, and it's the most basic blueprint for creation that you can have. Now, if you notice, if you look inside here, you see a cube. You see all these different shapes, dodecahedrons and pyramids and things like that, and icosahedrons. We'll get into that. That's very important to what we're going to go into now. So anyone who studies sacred geometry would know there's 5 building blocks, 5 Legos, 5 universal 3-dimensional shapes that make up everything in the known universe. It helps you understand sacred geometry and regular geometry a lot easier if you know this. They're called Platonic solids. Tetrahedron, a hexahedron, octahedron, dodecahedron, and icosahedron. What you need to realize with these things and what makes these shapes the Platonic solids is every face is equal size, okay? The length of every line is equal to the other. And third, you have only one angle inside of the inside angle of any of these shapes. So in the case of the cube or the hexahedron, it's 90 degrees. Every angle on this is 90 degrees. I hope you're starting to understand a little bit more. And last but not least, when any of these shapes are placed inside of a circle, all edges touch it perfectly. And that definition, you have the Platonic solids. So every one of these shapes has their own characteristics. This is actually where the original alchemy came from. Every one of these has an elemental tie, and every one of these are inside of Metatron's cube. So, well, let me just see if I can show you. All right, now there's Metatron's cube. Every one of these shapes. So let's just pick one. There's the tetrahedron. There's the tetrahedron. Okay. Hexahedron. Takes you a second, but it's there. It's just tilted. Hexahedron. See it? Perfect square. Octahedron. Ooh, that one gets funny. Oh, it's in here, inside these lines here. And the next one is isosahedron. And the dodecahedron. Dun 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 dun. Dodecahedron. That's the one you want to think about there. Okay. But let me move this down here. And the dodecahedron it's in there too. So out a little further. Don't let me lose track here. Guys, gotta keep me on. So each one of these shapes were considered to have an elemental aspect to them. Pythagorean type, and these they were thinkers, but they were less advanced. It was the falling away. As we're coming through the awakening process, like the Egyptians were awakened and enlightened, right? And as you were going through the yugis, as we came away from the galactic core, we were exposed to less energy. We started knowing less. We started guessing, philosophizing more, instead of having science, magic, and religion all tied into one epic culture of understanding. And then we started knowing less and guessing more and hypothesizing. But the tetrahedron was associated with fire. So the triangle, associate that with fire, okay? The cube was earth. The octahedron was air. The isosahedron was water. And last but not least, can anybody guess what the dodecahedron was? It was the force, the ether. It was the ether. Ether, the force, prana, chi, tachyon energy, they're all the same thing. They extend anywhere, and they're accessible through any point in space, time, dimension, or anything, any aspect of it. That is basically the same thing, that concept behind 0-point technology. So each one of these circles has the same association: fire, earth, water, air, ether, spirit, and void. Okay? So void, fire, earth, air, water, ether, spirit, void. You understand? I hope so. And I know you can't reply like this, so it kind of sucks. But I hope you're getting somewhere with what I'm trying to break down. So this is the first piece of information that comes out of the fruit of life from Metatron's cube, creating Metatron's cube. In those times, if you even whispered the word dodecahedron outside of, you know, the palace grounds, like the kind of like a secret little alchemy lab or something, then you were murdered on the spot, killed on the spot. So yeah, like these ancient what do we call them? There's schools, but I'm trying to think of what we call them. The mystery schools, the ancient mystery schools. Yeah. So if you whispered the word dodecahedron outside of one of these mystery schools, you were killed on the spot. So it's something to really consider on how sacred this information was back then. They had people discuss it, but they discussed it very carefully. You can read books on it. It's because this is the highest form of consciousness. It is. There's a lot there, and you have to get into this, but that's a whole other show class for another time. So we'll hold that thought. So, literally, these Platonic solids that I'm showing you come out of Metatron's cube, and we could realize that also out of this information, we found out that every single one of these, every single element in known existence, has a geometric relationship to one of these, which comes out of this, which comes out of this right here, right? See how it happens? That's a good one. I think that's the one I'm sure. Just also out of this, you can see the perfect Merkaba. Okay. I hope this all starts enlightening you a little bit more. But Robert Moon at the University of Chicago actually demonstrated that the entire periodic table of elements has a geometric relationship to one of these 5 shapes. As I said, which come out of this bit of information, which comes out of this bit of information, which also has many more informations. If you measure the angles and start learning about the degrees, things like that, you can divide them into one another and multiply them into one another, things like that, and you'll get the speed of light, or induction rate of light, if you will. And a lot of just angles, things like that, geometrical principles of light when it comes to the patterns, Roy G. Biv, all those things. Everything in existence comes from this. So these things have been all around us for a long time, and I believe some kind of spiritual beings, energy beings, kinetic beings, they maybe extra dimensional, maybe they're not. Maybe it's just since the force, the energy, the tachyon, prana, however you want to look at that, is accessible from any place in space, time, dimension. Maybe that's the ideas that we can see. Maybe in these other dimensions, our soul exists as balls of light or an energy form. These balls of light, like you see, doing these, and these are just something trying to give us a little bit of a head start. Because if you consider how much information comes out of that piece of right there that I told you, you understand that there's something trying to help us enlighten our conscious, raise our vibration, give us a more clear frequency. When you're watching my show, you can take it 2 aspects. I'm saying maybe 3. You can think of it in the left brain, take notes, see the logic in it, just in that aspect. Or you can think of it in a female way, and do it more free. Watch it like a movie. Just sit back and take it in. And, I'm sharing, taking away the whiteboard. I don't need to show you that representation. But you can do it those ways, and either way is right. Or you can do it a unified way. Which, I must say, don't be naive and think that you're doing it or you're always doing that, because there must be balance, but none of us are perfect at balancing ourselves. So we must remain humble and take the idea that these teachings, all of this, you'll get what you're supposed to get out of it. Share that with others. Connect the dots. Go back, reread, relearn, re-understand the basics, whatever started you. Once you get this concept I'm telling you, then you'll understand so much more. Go back to the beginning and go through it again. There'll be reasons those things resonated with you. So what I'm doing here is just giving you some cool stuff to look at for a moment. But yeah, I'm gonna take a quick break for 1 second, and I'll be right back. I know I don't have to tell you that, but just letting you know, I'll be right back. Actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna upload this one and make a 2-part thing, and I'm gonna film the second part right now, so other people, maybe they don't have that long of attention span or whatever. So this will be segment 1, the sacred geometry part, and then we're going into the history part now. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for part 2.